You ever get a letter saying your home might be seized, even though it's been in your family for generations? That's what landed in my mailbox after I told our HOA president Karen to get off my porch. And the craziest part? She didn't realize the very apartment she was living in was about to be mine. Act 1. The Spark. It started on a Saturday afternoon. Sun shining, lake calm, and me just trying to settle into the place my grandfather left me. The ranch by the water had been in my family forever, and after years of running my own business, I just wanted some peace. Then came the knock. I opened the door and there she is, blonde hair sprayed, stiff clipboard clutched like a badge of honor, smile so sugary it could rot teeth. "Hi, I'm Karen, president of the Lake HOA. I'd like to invite you to join our exclusive association," she says, like she's offering me a golden ticket. Exclusive my ass. She rattles off perks, access to their dock discounts at local shops, the privilege of being part of an elite group of homeowners. I held back a laugh. I don't need anyone telling me how to run my land. So I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Not interested." Her smile froze, wheels turning behind those eyes. She tilts her head like she's scolding a child. "Oh, I understand. Some people don't like rules. But if you refuse, well, we'll have to enforce our regulations. And you don't want issues with the community, do you?" That wasn't an invitation. That was a threat. I shut the door on her fake grin. But even as her footsteps faded off my porch, I felt that knot in my stomach that said this wasn't over. And I was right. Act 2. Escalation and Doubt. 2 days later, the first letter arrives. Fancy letterhead, bold fonts, pages of legal jargon. Accused me of failing to maintain property borders, of unauthorized construction. But the kicker, non-compliance with HOA membership, like refusing to join their little club, was a crime. I laughed at first. Then came the second letter. This one was uglier, threats of foreclosure, warnings about community disruption. They even dragged up my barn expansion and the cabin by the lake, claiming violations of zoning laws I knew were bogus. That's when I called Robert, my buddy and a hell of a property rights lawyer. "Karen's testing me," I said. He didn't hesitate. "Let's test her back." Robert dug into the records. Turns out my grandfather was sharper than anyone knew. His will had ironclad clauses: no one could claim or regulate any part of this land without my written consent. The HOA had zero authority. Still, Karen pushed harder. She showed up at my gate with 2 cops, smug as ever. "He's refusing to comply with HOA rules," she told them like she was queen of the county. I kept my cool. Reached into my jacket, pulled out the deeds and clauses Robert had filed just hours earlier. "Actually, officers, the only law that applies here is this." I watched their faces shift as they skimmed the documents. One of them even shook his head. "Ma'am, looks like you're out of your depth." Karen's face turned crimson. She stormed off, but I knew she'd be back. And she was, this time with a high-priced lawyer and a lawsuit claiming $500,000 in damages for destroying the peace of the neighborhood. I'll be honest, that broke me. One night I sat at my kitchen table, letters spread out like landmines, hands in my hair. Was I crazy for fighting this? What if I lost the ranch? What if my grandfather's legacy ended with me? Maybe I should have just signed the damn form and avoided the fight. That thought stung. I'd never backed down in my life, but here I was considering it. And then I remembered something Grandpa used to say. Never let someone else write your family's story. That snapped me out of it. If Karen wanted a war, she was going to get one. And I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going on offense. Act 3. The Showdown. See, the HOA owned some prime lakefront properties, and thanks to years of business experience, I had enough capital to start buying. Quietly. One lot here, another there. Before long, I had leverage they couldn't imagine. Even Karen's little secret apartment, the one she'd been renting out to her inner circle, landed in my hands. So the next time she came at me screaming about violations, I smiled and said, "Funny thing, Karen. Your apartment, I own it now." The color drained from her face. But the real showdown came at the community forum she organized. The day before our court hearing, she packed the HOA hall with neighbors ready to paint me as the villain. Karen strutted to the front, blazer, sharp voice dripping venom. She accused me of ruining property values, of threatening board members, of tearing the neighborhood apart. She waved papers, shouted about lawsuits. Then it was my turn. I walked to the front with Robert at my side. Calm, steady. I laid down the deeds, the will, the purchase records, proof that the HOA had no power here, proof I had legal control over more of the lakefront than anyone. I didn't shout. I didn't need to. I looked the neighbors in the eye and said, "This isn't about me refusing to join a club. This is about one woman abusing her position to bully everyone. And it ends today." The room shifted. People started nodding, whispering. Some stood up and told their own stories. Fines for ridiculous things, threats of foreclosure, harassment. Karen's mask cracked. Her voice got shriller, her hands shook. And then, like clockwork, her lawyer tried to salvage it. But the judge the next morning didn't buy a word. Karen's $500,000 lawsuit dismissed. Her attempt to contest my grandfather's will thrown out. Her injunction to stop construction on my resort project denied. She sat there in court, pale, trembling, stripped of every ounce of power she'd clung to. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just stood there knowing the tyrant of the lake was finally done. Closing line. Power built on lies always crumbles. All it takes is someone willing to stand up.